Right now at Domino's, get unlimited menu-priced pizzas for 50% off when you order online. But for this week only, choose any size and any crust, including new Parmesan stuffed crust and any toppings you want. You can order as many as you want, and they'll all be half price. But don't miss out. This half-price offer is available for this week only when you order online. So order now. You must select this limited-time offer. Minimum
Here comes trouble, putting on a show. Like a domino, I fall. Another bottle, don't know what to say. Send me on my way to you. I know you're all that I want, but I don't even know your name. So don't go and leave me lonely. I'll show you another way. And you say it's a one-night thing, but I want something more than that. So don't go and leave me lonely. I'll show you another way. So don't go and leave me lonely. I'll show you another way. Eyes wide open, holding out for you. Tell me that it's true. Oh, did you notice? I saw you over there, looking like a heartbreaker. I know you're all that I want, but I don't even know your name. So don't go and leave me lonely. I'll show you another way. And you say it's a one-night thing, but I want something more than that. So don't go and leave me lonely. I'll show you another way. So don't go and leave me lonely. I'll show you another way.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways. And on we'll
love to binge watch.
And now with Lake City Bank Digital, we binge watch our money.
It
One, two, three.
I can't hear Julie. Oh, I can hear. Yeah, but I don't hear on this.
Well, I stopped talking for a second, so.
No, it shows here no picture and your mic's off on this. On what I'm seeing on the backstage.
Great. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to drop and come right back.
Anything now? Okay. There we go. We got me. Patrick, test.
Test, test, test.
Okay. Julie, it says your mic's off in Stream Together. Okay. I know your mic's not off, but in Stream Together it says that it is. Lovely. No. Sorry, Stavros. Hey, there we go. Now I'm getting some. Okay. In the software, it's showing me. All right, Julie's going to try to restart. Okay. Keeps telling me that somebody already did stuff. Oh, I'm clear again. We do so appreciate all your love and support while we continue to learn. Yay. I hear zucchini noodles are good. Hey, I see Julie.
You see me? Hold on a second. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Yes.
I just switched over to the phone.
Gotcha. Okay.
Apparently, my computer is in the middle of also doing an update in the background, and I didn't know. But you're also clear.
Yes. But I'm also clear on here.
Right, but when I left out,
Yes,
you were
ma'am.
fuzzy.
I was fuzzy. Yes. But that was several different things. Okay. So we see and hear everybody who is present. We are missing our dearly beloved Shar. More mice. Okay. Um, but
We have a major mice issue with her, and we will get this figured out.
we will get this figured out. And our stuff issues for the stream, we will get those figured out as time goes as well. So, all that to say, welcome to the Hold My Pen Promptcast. 40 minutes late.
We will figure this out eventually.
Eventually. Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you for the 7 that are here.
Yes, absolutely. And we do have 7 prompts tonight, or 7 prompt submissions. There we go. So, our lovely prompt this week, we're just going to dive right in, just simply because, 40 minutes later and, issues. We're all right. We're all right. You guys chose last week to use the dialogue, I've been trying to protect you. he said, almost pleading. You have no idea what you're getting into. And I can't wait to see what everybody came up with.
Oh, most definitely, especially since we have a very unique
Nor
set of
can I.
people.
Yes, and as you all know, our lovely host, Julie DeFisher, all right, author of Destined for More and Crossroads, expect to see some more of the Double Edged series coming soon. May have a little bit of a sneak peek tonight of something else brewing. And we have our moral support co host down here, PA Power, author of the Chimera series, Chimera Wolf, Chimera Clan. And we've also got Kingdom of Shadows, the dark retelling of Peter Pan, and Decoding Shady Pines, along with more of Heart of Stone that we should be getting tonight. And of course, I am not your host, I'm your co host, but I have the software, so I run on the Hold My Pen Promptcast uh, account. Izzy Krause, dedicated reader, chaos reader, all the things.
The queen.
All around baddie. Okay, she is definitely the other half, and
I
keep
try.
my ass straight, girl.
This is true. This is true. And we've kind of abandoned TikTok. I mean, we're still there, obviously, but we're not streaming there. And any rumors of any of us, having any kind of breakdown or issues where, yeah, no, sadly blown out of proportion. And anybody who is saying otherwise can kiss my glow in the dark white.
Do want to throw out there real quick for our 7 people, which everybody knows already, that we are fixing to be at.
I can't hear you, Julie.
I can hear
You're
her just
muted.
fine. No, she's not. Yeah, we hear her. Don't know what you're smoking.
But I can hear everybody.
Oh, Patrick might have to drop and come back.
Nope.
He looks
Okay,
like he's
so
on a loop.
here's the deal. This is going to suck. Give me 1 minute.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
way around this. Without the
Okay.
dropping and coming back crap.
Okay. Yeah, because he was starting to get a little choppy too on video.
Well, he looked like he was on a loop there for a minute. I'm like, what the fuck is going
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the
Like, we
fuck?
got enough issues tonight. We don't need any help.
We really don't. We don't need help on that.
He's gonna go plug up. He knows better.
Let's try something a little different. Now, Izzy, you're blurry as hell.
Well, we can't win. We can't
It's
win.
okay. On my screen, she's frozen.
What?
Yeah, on my screen, you're frozen. But you're frozen in such a funny way that I'm like, that's why I said, do we want to just try to restart and see if we can figure this out, or?
I don't know that it'll help because I'm always blurry. There, I even switched cameras. Nope. No love. There's just nothing for it.
You lost Izzy.
Lost me.
There you are. Well, there you are on the screen, but
Well, here's another thing. This week I do plan on installing all of this stuff on my other laptop. And so that way I will be running the OBS from the laptop and everything else from here. So maybe that'll help. Too many things running at once.
yeah, it's probably bogging down the back end.
Yep. All right. So you folks really came through. We're sitting at end total because Dahlia was doing some last minute stuff there. 14,003 words submitted this week. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So let's get going. All right. First and foremost, we have Stavros. All right, SP Stavros. And interestingly enough, rule number 1, always wear appropriate clothing.
That's scary.
Right? Right? I'm a little concerned. Just a wee bit concerned there. Louise always hated it when people called her a librarian. Sure, she loved her pleated skirts below the knee and ballet flats to fit just right, but that just made her practical. In any boardroom, she would fit right in. But on the streets, Louise was the librarian. Even some of her friends in high school mocked her taste. It was in college she met people who understood her fashion choices, especially those in marketing. She was selling herself as professional and reliable. Her navy blazer went perfectly with her simple white blouse with a rounded collar, her knee-length gray pleated skirt with her black ballet flats. Sensible. It was for that reason she was going on a vacation to the winter paradise of Canada. Her coworkers demanded she take a break. Louise had been there every single day from when she started. Every campaign, every proposal, every passed over promotion. She arrived 3 hours early for her flight, enough time to make sure she was through TSA, grabbed a snack, and a book for the flight. It was 5 a.m., and the lineup was slim. She walked down the hall past TSA until she came across a bookstore. Louise browsed until she came across a survival book. It had a picture of a grizzly bear on the front. Maybe this would be sensible for Canada. She flipped through it and found a set of rules to follow, which immediately intrigued her. She could follow rules. Several hours later, Louise had boarded her flight and got cozy while munching on a bag of pretzels. Her book had not only rules but chapters to detail how to survive with diagrams, from emergency igloos to lean-tos. She browsed through the information, making sure to recite the rules in case she would need it for her mountain stay in the middle of nowhere in Canada. Louise had introduced herself to her seatmate, Claire, who seemed nice enough, except for her need to relieve herself every 10 minutes. Claire seemed to run off to the little cloakroom like she would pee through her shimmery gray dress any moment. Louise flipped to the back of her book to find the index and found a chapter on knots and their purposes. For the next while, she happily absorbed information about hitches, bends, loop knots, and stoppers, and the Canadian jam knot, which immediately caught her attention. Then she realized too much time had passed since Claire left. Louise peered behind her as Claire pushed the small closet-sized bathroom door shut with a ripple of her shimmering gray dress and turned down the aisle, her face pale and her step faltering. She almost fell in Louise's lap as she collapsed in her seat. "What's wrong?" she whispered to Claire. The young woman met Louise's concerned gaze. I just saw the news. Louise's eyebrows furrowed. Sure, the news lately has been horrible and stress-inducing, but to cause her to be so suddenly sick? What did the news say? Did the tariffs increase or something? Did they finally decide fashion runways are just walking garbage bags now? Louise tried a light, humorous tone that fell flat as Claire's unfocused gaze stared, unblinking. What? You're scaring me. Louise nibbled on her nail. What flight number are we on? Claire asked. Louise squinted at her acquaintance. Whatever she saw clearly spooked her. A319, why? Watching closely as Claire's face fell. Okay, what is going on? Did something happen? What, is our pilot under arrest or something? Claire dug out her phone and pulled up the article before showing it to Louise. The tragic flight that never made it back. An article covering the flight from Chicago to Calgary, Alberta that never landed. In fact, they crashed. At first, Louise was sure it had to be an error, as the two young women were clearly alive and breathing. But then she realized the remaining part of the plane photographed had the same flight code. Louise glanced around, trying to find some sense of sanity, only to realize the flight attendants were slumped over their food carts and passengers were sleeping. Louise, I'm starting to feel sleepy. Claire yawned. Louise looked back at her friend, her eyes looking tired and sunken in suddenly. No, what if something is wrong with the flight? Maybe they missed something on the maintenance check before the flight. Maybe the pilot couldn't be reached. Louise's words spilled from her as the ideas spiraled out of control. Louise, I think it would be fine to take a quick nap. Claire's voice faded as her eyes shut. It was then she stood, checking her phone only to get one notification from a random email newsletter titled, "You Were Always the Quiet One," from a lifestyle coach she had subscribed to in a low point in her life. She just kept forgetting to unsubscribe. A chill ran down her spine at the timing of the newsletter before pushing down the aisle to check the others on the plane. Her pleated skirt swished around her as she peeked outside the windows as she moved. The sun hadn't even cleared the horizon while Louise moved. Then the air grew cool as she moved toward the front of the fuselage. Louise grew uncomfortable as she realized the flight attendants were either seated and buckled or slumped over as if asleep, except they were deathly still and their skin was waxy. The passengers were no different. We're all good. We're all good. Then she entered the cockpit's jarred door. The pilots were slumped over, but the plane flew silently over the ground, appearing blissful with a few buttons beeping every once in a while. Louise stood there in silence until it was broken by radio static. Checking in, A319. Check, are you there? A man's voice came through. Louise scrambled for the radio. Hello? Her voice came out strangled. The static came through with a repeat of the dreaded flight number. Louise fumbled with buttons until the sound disappeared with the press of a small button. Hello, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? She let go of the button. Static came back. A319, is this the pilot flying? The man's voice came on the radio again. No, this is a passenger. Everyone seems to be either sleeping or passed away. I don't know what's going on, Louise said. Ma'am, I must talk to a pilot or flight attendant at this time. A319 does not have permission to land. Louise's voice dried up as she remembered the article. The date of the article was April 22nd. She swore it was April 21. Sir, I am the only one coherent at this time. She chewed on her lip. What time and date is it right now? Louise could feel the confusion coming through the radio as the static returned. It's 6 a.m., April 21. What do you mean you are the only one coherent, ma'am? The man seemed to just realizing how serious things were. Everyone else is not awake, sir. You can't be right. It was 6 a.m. before we left on the 21st. We shouldn't even be in the air then, Louise mused. Ma'am, I am looking at the computer right now with the live newscast in the background. It's 6 a.m. The man on the radio confirmed, leaving her stunned. What did that mean, though? But I just saw an article about the crash. It was posted tomorrow. Fully published with time, date, and photo of the crashed flight of A319. Louise's voice wobbled. The plane shook as the cockpit tipped down, the turbulence kicking her around under Louise lost her footing. She held on to the seats in front of her as she watched the plane headed downward to an oncoming airport field. Louise reached for the radio. Hello? Are you still there? Still here, ma'am. You have to make a choice, and you have to make it now. His voice sounded clearer than ever. Louise reached for the plane's navigation and tried to pull it up, only the ground was fast approaching. Then she saw a flashing red switch near the slumped pilot. Without a second thought, she reached above him and flicked it. Louise watched as the plane shook, fighting to stabilize the nosedive path. Her breath came in hard, shallow waves as she curled up and waited for the impact. Then everything exploded in chaos. Ground had made contact, and the cockpit collapsed around her so fast she passed out from sheer stress. When she woke, the man's voice was beside her on a stretcher. The librarian's awake, he called to a medic. She always hated being called a librarian. Dun dun dun!
Oh,
Damn.
that was good.
Holy fuck, Stavros! I think you missed your calling with the fantasy. So I mean,
She
I don't know what
used
to say about
almost
that.
every. She used almost all of the concepts, all of the prompts.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Holy, holy.
Holy cannolis.
I felt my heart starting to like race. Yes, yes, Stavros. That I mean, oh, oh, I, oh. Yes, you are good at suspense and the concepts and whatnot. That was
That was something. That was
oh.
definitely.
I mean, does anybody remember there was that rash of airplane stuff like Manifest and the 4400 and all of those? They kept dying off. Like they'd be good for a season or two and then they would just die off.
You couldn't do much with them.
You really
It's like,
couldn't.
okay, you were great for a season or two, but they had no concept of the storyline.
They really
Yes, at
didn't.
first, yes, they went missing, they came back, they did the thing, and then all of a sudden it was just like it didn't make any sense anymore, and it just poofed.
Which literally, it's okay to be like a 1-2 series, but that's it. Don't try to make it more than what it is. Final Destination just needs to stop.
Yes, we already have enough fucking trauma from that fucking show or that damn movie. We don't need any help.
No Ferris wheels. No plane rides. No NASCAR.
Yeah, no,
No
none of
driving
that.
behind a no driving behind a log or trailer.
Well, and Kesh said because
Um,
people don't like being reminded that planes go down. That's not the problem with shows like 4400 and Manifest and those. It's the fact that they're like, okay, the first and second season, right, where they suddenly show back up or something. Then they follow each of the passengers and things that wind up happening, but then it peters out because at some point all of the stories that happen to them are done, but they keep trying to make it something bigger. Um,
and
but
it
yeah,
could have been if they would have just thought it out before they started production in the first season.
exactly. And I could see this literally being like a season or two or a series of two of what happens, right? But then you
Why
almost
is
have to
everybody sick? Why is she the only one that's alive? Was Dr.
exactly.
Sleep on the plane? There's so many questions here.
So many and it would have a beginning and a start and an end. It's not a series that could go on and on and on, and maybe it is just one or two books like a duology or something like that, but
Stavros.
i I mean,
You
some people
never
make a very
know.
lucrative career out of that, Stavros. They do.
And if you're gonna do it, please go to indie authors or indie books and pitch those ideas, because look, you can only remake the same freaking movie, and literally remake the same
Yeah,
movie.
every
It's
single
just a
time.
couple different events and maybe some different characters. But like, I loved the Fast and the Furious, but the whole thing is it got very redundant
Yes.
after, I think, the fifth movie.
You can only steal so many cars. Really, come on.
Well, you can only steal so many cars, you can only do so many jumps, you can only do so many things evading the law, this, that, and the other, before it's like, bam, it's done. Leave it alone. And now, here we go. Exactly. You can only claim family so long before betrayal. Um, Honestly, I think the movie after Brian died, um, after Paul Walker died, they should have left it alone. Because they always implemented that, Paul was going to come back. There was no way for Paul to come back because Paul was gone. There is no coming back from, the car crash. So either the best thing for them to do was to have what a lot of people did in, the earlier days, they killed off the character. They didn't bring somebody back to play that character. They literally killed off the character. Um, they should have just left it and left it alone. Because the two movies after Paul Walker died, they literally put it down as, like they were trying to get somebody else to come in and fill those shoes, and they couldn't do it.
No, no. As a diehard Fast and the Furious fan who has seen every single movie, I could argue with you for hours upon hours upon hours. Um, but we're not going to devolve into that. So they ended up switching it up. Originally, it was about the racing, and a lot of people don't like that it's now this big, huge conspiracy theory. But regardless, Stavros, that was good. That
That was very good.
that
That
was
was
good.
very good.
I cannot wait to see where you go with that. So, next up, we're going to keep right on booking. Sorry, I needed to get more coffee and then found out there was no more coffee, and I'm not making more coffee, so I went and got some of my kid's Starry. He said he got me Sprite. I don't know where it is, so whatever. But next up, oh, now you pulled an Under the Dome. All right, next up, we have PA Power. Yeah, you better hide. You better hide, brother dear. We are now at chapter 6, The Driftwood. And that is in Heart of Stone, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
There is chapters that you have missed because they were not part of the prompt. You will not get all of Heart of Stone on the Promptcast.
Oops. And that's good. Ah, damn. I was trying to reset because I was not clear again. Oh, well. Okay. So, here we go. The kettle whistled, sharp and shrill against the quiet hum of the stone cottage. Amanda stood by the table, carefully unpacking the small box Scott had delivered earlier. Professor Lynn moved around the kitchen with her usual grace, her steps measured, deliberate, like someone who had danced with time long enough to understand its rhythm. She placed 2 mismatched mugs on the worn oak table. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows that played across shelves crammed with books, feathers, and strange stones that seemed to hum faintly whenever Amanda passed too close. One by one, Amanda laid out the contents of the box. A crescent moon pendant on a delicate silver chain, tarnished but still whole. An old inkwell sealed with wax. And several sheets of frottage? I've never heard that word.
It is my $20 word.
Please hold. Frottage. Frottage. Okay. The technique or process of taking a rubbing from an uneven surface to form the basis of a work of art. The practice of touching or rubbing against the clothed body of another person in a crowd as a means of obtaining. We're not going to finish that sentence. Okay. Whew. The paper was yellowed, edges frayed like the hem of an old cloak, but each bore detailed impressions, rubbings taken from carved stone, likely from within the ruins. The images seemed to pulse with life, their textures rich with the voices of the forgotten. Professor Lynn sat across from her, adjusting the thin framed spectacles perched on the bridge of her nose. She picked up the pendant, letting it dangle in the firelight. Stavros, hush. We're not going there, Stavros.
Not yet.
Patrick! This symbol, she murmured. I haven't seen it in a long while. The crescent moon, often associated with the guardians of the night. Not warriors, but watchers, protectors. Amanda reached out and touched the silver curve. It was cool against her skin. Guardians? Like the ones from that old myth? Those from the cliffs? Lynn nodded and gently unrolled the first sheet of frottage. The image showed a gathering, figures dancing within a spangled sky, a tree at the center blooming wide and wild. Encircling them were cottages, nestled close in what looked like a protective ring. In the distance, a castle in its infancy, just a single tower and a gate. They lived in peace at first, Lynn said, her voice tinged with reverence. She traced a line of runes at the edge of the page. This one tells of a harvest celebration, music, laughter, a merging of worlds. Amanda leaned closer. The scent of aged ink and salt water rose from the parchment. And the castle? Did they build it? Together, it seems. Villagers and guardians alike. These next markings, she unrolled the second sheet, speak of the cliffs and sea caves. A pact was made. The guardians would watch over the land and its people by day, and retreat to the cliffs to sleep by night. In return, the kingdom offered them shelter, kinship, trust. Amanda blinked, surprised. That's not how the stories went when I was a kid. The guardians were monsters, shadows in the dark. Parents used to say they'd crawl into your room and eat you if you misbehaved. Stories change. Lynn's voice was soft. Some parents use fear when wisdom would do. But history remembers. Even if the words change, the truth waits beneath them. It's our job to find it. They sat in a comfortable silence, the fire murmuring behind them. Amanda could still feel a hum in her chest, the same pull she'd felt near the old swing, a memory that didn't belong to her, or maybe one buried too deep to claim. So what happened? She asked at last. If they were once protectors, where did they go? Why did the peace end? Lynn's eyes met hers, flames dancing in their reflection. That's what we need to discover. But there are those in this land who'd prefer we didn't remember. Perhaps it's time we make the land tell us its full story. Amanda looked toward the window. Beyond it, the cliffs loomed in silhouette, ancient, watching, waiting. Lynn let out a breath. Enough for tonight. We can look at more relics tomorrow. And don't think I haven't noticed your fondness for that book. She nodded toward the journal Amanda had tucked under her arm. Careful. Scott will be upset if you misplace it. Remember, he put you in charge of this. I know, but you're right. It's enough for tonight. Amanda stretched, her limbs heavy with exhaustion. It's been a long day. I just want to forget it all. She wandered to her new room and collapsed onto the bed. Her head barely hit the pillow before she was out. No dreams, just darkness, deep and still. The kind of sleep that feels like being wrapped in velvet. Sunlight spilled across Amanda's face, warm and blinding. She squinted, groaning, and stumbled toward the kitchen, still half asleep. Now that, said a warm, familiar voice, is a sight I wouldn't mind waking up to every morning. Sir?
Just wait.
Scott leaned casually against the breakfast bar, sipping a cup of hot tea. Gives off that sexy librarian with a pinch of, oh, what's the word I'm looking for, Professor? Amanda stopped cold. She hated when people reduced her to a stereotype. Librarian? Fine. Sexy American librarian? Not before coffee. Really? She muttered, walking past him to grab a scoop of flour. Without warning, she dumped it squarely on his head. Not the way you want to start your day with me. Scott sputtered as flour cascaded down his shirt. Amanda poured herself a cup of coffee and retreated back toward her room, victorious. Feisty, that one, he muttered. Professor Lynn narrowed her eyes over the rim of her mug. Scott, please tell me you want her for her mind, not her looks. Professor, I swear, I admire her talent. But come on, the heart wants what the heart wants. He brushed flour from his hair. Brains and beauty. That's the dream. Amanda reappeared in the hallway, arms crossed. Well, I've got brains, beauty, and one hell of a mean left hook. You may think it's a privilege to be here, but don't mistake my kindness for weakness. Without waiting for a reply, she turned on her heel and stormed off toward class. Scott followed, jogging to catch up, only to find Bethany already in Amanda's face, yelling, Why don't you just go home already? You don't belong here. Bethany raised her coffee cup threateningly, but Scott stepped between them just in time to take the full brunt of the scalding liquid down his back. Ah, damn it, Bethany, he cried out, wincing. Why do you have to be such a cow? Hey, that's an insult to the cow.
Right?
Just, ugh. What the hell,
I'm trying
Scott?
to make it. I'm trying to make him be nice and not call her what she is.
No, I get that, but that's an insult to the cow. Okay. Dairy farmer's daughter, remember?
I'd have called her a heifer at least.
Yeah, she hasn't had a kid, so that would count.
Send that to me in a message. I'll see if I'll change it.
What the hell, Scott? This is your fault. Wait until I tell my daddy, Bethany shrieked, stomping her feet like a spoiled child. Go ahead, little bitch. Run off to daddy. Oh. Amanda rounded on Scott, her voice tight. Why did you do that? I can handle myself. Not every woman needs a knight in shining armor. I've been trying to protect you, Scott said, almost pleading. You don't know what you're getting into. Bethany can be... I know who her father is, Amanda interrupted, already blotting the coffee from his shirt. And I've dealt with worse from her than her back home. Scott stilled as her fingers brushed his collar. His hand came up, gently grasping her wrist. I never realized how incredible your eyes look when you're this fierce, he said softly. Look, I know I come off like a total jerk sometimes, but I do believe you belong on this expedition. I'll try harder, I promise. Try harder at what? Making this American prove she's got roots? Amanda teased, one brow raised. Scott smirked. Oh, I've done my homework. You may have been raised across the pond, but your roots are buried deep here. You just haven't uncovered them yet. He glanced over Amanda's shoulder, then leaned forward, lifting her hand as if to kiss it, only to stop himself, lingering just an inch away. The tantrum queen's gone. Her drones, too. I think it's safe for you to make it to class, he whispered. Amanda rolled her eyes, but a tiny smile tugged at her lips as she turned to go. Professor Lynn approached, taking Amanda by the arm. You were always the quiet one. Truly, it is the quiet ones you need to watch out for. Scott, we will see you this afternoon. You can share more what you have found and what you would like Amanda to read between the lines with the second box of items you brought over. Please tell me you are logging and cataloging where you find things. Of course, Scott answered as he turned to dash away to the castle. Amanda watched Scott retreat with a half hearted smirk, then exhaled slowly. Despite her exhaustion, the morning's chaos had jump started her nerves again. She grabbed her satchel, brushed down her shirt, and headed out the path, footsteps echoing along the stone corridor that led to the small lecture hall they had nicknamed the Burrow, likely for its half submerged architecture and constant smell of damp earth. Professor Lynn's assistant was already there, chalk dust on her fingertips, the boards behind her scrawled with unfamiliar script and timelines. A handful of students sat in hushed cliques, the air humming with whispered theories and gossip about Amanda's latest run in with Bethany. Amanda slid into a seat near the back, just as Lynn walked up to call the room to order. Today, the professor began, her voice both commanding and kind, we'll take a slight detour from our curriculum. Amanda, she glanced toward her with a nod, was kind enough to help unpack some of the relics discovered near the ruins, and what we found hints at a time before the written records we study, a time when magic and kinship between peoples and nature were not just myth, but life. She turned and pointed to a section of the board labeled The 7 Silent Years. It said that after the Guardians vanished, whether driven away or betrayed, this land fell into a curse of its own making. For 7 years, the soil grew sour. No crops would take. Wells ran dry. Storms came in patterns too precise to be natural. The cliffs howled at night, and the trees, ancient ones, mind you, shed their leaves in mourning, even in midsummer. Amanda leaned forward, enthralled despite herself. So the land fought back? In a way, yes, Lynn replied, pacing slowly. The elders called it the rebellion of the land. They believed nature itself remembered the broken pact with the guardians, and in their absence, the balance was destroyed. Without them, the connection between the village, the castle, and the cliffs fractured. A student in the front row raised his hand. Was it magic or just superstition? Professor Lynn smiled thoughtfully. Both, perhaps. But 7 years of famine and drought is more than a coincidence in this climate. Even today, the soil on the cliffside remains less fertile than the valleys below. Some say it never fully recovered. It was only after the village elders performed a desperate ritual, one that's been erased from all known record, that life slowly returned to the land. Amanda shivered despite the warmth in the room. And what happened to the guardians? Lynn looked at her for a moment, then the rest of the class. That, my dear students, is why we're here. The relics Amanda unpacked, especially the frottage of the old pact, suggest a truth far older than the tales meant to frighten children. If the guardians were protectors, then who turned them into monsters? The room fell into thoughtful silence. Tomorrow, Lynn said, closing her notebook, we'll journey up to the sea caves. There may still be inscriptions preserved in the stone, but I warn you, those cliffs are old, and not all things buried there wish to be found. Professor Lynn clapped her hands once, sharp and deliberate. All right, class, settle down. We don't have time for any more drama. If you're here for that, Miss Farrington's theater elective is 2 doors down and starts in 20 minutes. A few students chuckled under their breath, but Bethany remained stiff as a board, arms crossed, chin lifted like she wore a crown no one could see. Now, Lynn continued, before our field study tomorrow, I want to emphasize why we study these histories. It's not just to unearth trinkets and dusty old stones. It's to preserve the voices of the past, especially those deliberately silenced. Entire civilizations have disappeared not because they died, but because their stories were buried. Our job is to give them breath again, even if, especially if, it makes us uncomfortable. Oh, please, Bethany scoffed loud enough to silence the room. This again? Lynn's expression didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. My father's already written 3 books on the Guardians and the coastal settlements. They're used in real universities, not just backwater field schools like this. The idea that there's more out there is frankly desperate. You're chasing shadows. Amanda felt her stomach twist, the kind of sick heat that only came from secondhand embarrassment. Even Angie looked stunned. Professor Lynn's tone cooled a few degrees. So you believe everything worth discovering has already been found? Bethany tilted her head in a perfect parody of feigned innocence. I believe clinging to forgotten myths for relevance isn't academic integrity, it's denial. Maybe it's time you moved on. You're not going to be the one to uncover the next big thing. That ship sailed with your dissertation. Just because you missed your moment doesn't mean the rest of us have to entertain your obsessions. The silence after that was thunderous. Professor Lynn stepped forward, her voice suddenly soft and dangerous like the eye of a storm. History doesn't care about your father's publisher, or your last name, or mine. What is buried beneath those cliffs is not waiting for someone with the best connections. It's waiting for someone with the right eyes to see it. Bethany opened her mouth to respond, but Lynn held up a hand, final, decisive. You're welcome to sit out the field study, but if you stay in my class, you will listen, because history will repeat itself, especially when arrogance convinces us we already know everything worth knowing. Amanda felt her pulse in her ears. She couldn't help it. Her lips curled into the barest of smirks, not because Bethany had been put in her place, but because for the first time, Amanda saw the fire in Lynn's eyes. This wasn't just about artifacts or ancient legends. It was about truth, and the bones beneath the cliffs weren't done talking. The bell rang with a shrill chime that echoed through the narrow halls, releasing the students from the classroom like a shaken hive. Amanda gathered her notebook and slung her bag over her shoulder, still replaying Professor Lynn's sharp words in her head. Bethany stormed out without a word. Angie caught Amanda's arm. Come eat with me and Charlotte? I'll pass. You are Bethany's right-hand girl. Besides, I need some air, Amanda said, forcing a small smile. Sorry. I just feel like just itchy, like something just beneath the surface. Just
Much like the bones in the cliff.
uh-huh. Specifically your story, Patrick. Whew. She headed outside, letting the wind cool her cheeks. The university wasn't big, just a few low buildings nestled between dense forest and jagged coastlines. Lunch hour usually meant either grabbing a soggy sandwich from the student lounge or making the trek to the Driftwood Diner 2 streets over. Amanda had brought a granola bar. She just unwrapped it when she heard the unmistakable scrape of boots on gravel. Fancy seeing you here, Brainiac, came Scott's voice. Amanda groaned under her breath, but turned anyway. You know we go to the same school, right? Not exactly a rare encounter. He grinned, running a hand through hair that looked too perfectly tousled to be accidental. Still, thought you'd be buried under a pile of books, or solving ancient curses with your mind powers. I see you still fancy that old book. Find any secrets within? She raised an eyebrow. Wow, you remembered I have a brain. Progress. So tell me something, Scott. We go to the same school, but you're in charge of the castle project. How is that possible? Scott's grin didn't fade. Actually, that's why I'm here. He held out a brown hand like an offering. You haven't eaten. Come to the driftwood with me. My treat. Amanda narrowed her eyes. Why? He blinked. Because I'm nice? You're persistent, she corrected. But nice is up for debate. So let's skip the game, Scott. What's your motive? He opened his mouth and shut it again. To his credit, he didn't look smug or defensive, just genuine. I like you, he said plainly. Not in the way guys usually like girls, not just because you're, well, look at you. Amanda crossed her arms. So I'm not just a pretty face. No, he said quickly. I mean, yes, you are, obviously, but it's more than that. You're smart. You care about stuff that matters. You call people out when they're full of crap, and you don't play dumb to make anyone feel better about themselves. That's rare, especially here. Amanda softened. Just a little. Scott rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly sheepish. Look, I know I come off like some cocky farm boy turned jock, but I swear I'm trying. And I also know in a town this small, a girl with brains and beauty, well, guys like me either step up or lose our shot. I didn't want to lose mine. So let's make a deal. Come have lunch with me. You can pick my brain while I get to sit and watch yours go to work. Amanda looked at him, her granola bar forgotten. Okay, she said finally. Lunch. But if you try to quiz me about snakes in sea caves or ancient legends, I'm walking. He held up both hands. No snakes in sea caves? Oh boy. Angie up to her typical I hear it or I read it in a magazine crap again? No legends, but if I ask you about legends, you need to know the castle legends. But for now, just lunch, and whatever you ask of me. Amanda gave in to his charms and allowed him to lead her over to the driftwood, where they were greeted and seated with no hassle. Dun dun dun. Well. Oh, brown gloved hand. Why is he wearing gloves? Okay. That's right. Patrick?
What?
That
You can chastise me in Discord.
that I can't wait to see where like I mean, okay, so not only do you have that original like prologue or whatever that just, made us all like remember watching gargoyles as kids, but there's the connection between Amanda and
Amelia.
Amelia. Yes, I knew it was an A name. But 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 then you've also got this rich story happening in the now, and it's like I can't wait to see it all come together.
And you're gonna be pissed at me.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but no more so than everybody's about to be pissed off at me because I have not written for the last 3 weeks, and this was about to be 4 weeks, and no, I submitted, and
So I don't have to whoop your butt in Green Bay. Good.
well, here's the thing. I took all 4 of the last week's prompts and put them into tonight's. So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
You're
So
making up.
I was making up basically for where my brain was going. The prompts, like if I would have done them, it would have been part of a conversation, and it didn't come together until I had all 4. So I'm about to make myself hoarse because this is 4,300 words.
I thought I was bad today this time. Woohoo.
Hey, Dragona! Thanks for stopping in. Mwah! And that would be a friend that Kesh introduced me to. Yes, one of Kesh's besties. So now she gets to hear what I do in my spare time. Writing.
Thanks for the clarification.
All right. Here we go. Now, if everybody remembers what we had, because this is from Blood Cipher. So, last we left off, Moira was in a coma. Right? Apparently she's awake. Moira shifted uneasily in the overstuffed chair. Do you ever think about what could have been? She asked him, her voice soft. Or is it easier not to? Crawford scoffed at the thought. You mean if your parents hadn't killed Dad, Grandfather, and Mitch? If you and Neve hadn't killed Dan and Rick? She shrank into the blanket wrapped around her shoulders, shivering from her ordeal and his tone. Yeah, that. He stood, quickly turning to pace away from her, a derisive snort escaping his nostrils. Then they would have killed you. We would have moved on to the next monsters and killed them too. No sense looking back on what might have been if they'd had the chance to indoctrinate me into their cabal ways. I wouldn't have you and Thistledown. I wouldn't know compassion. I wouldn't know love, only death and destruction. Feebly, she pushed her bangs from her eyes. That can't be true, John. You are inherently kind. You wouldn't have let them change you. There isn't a world where they survived and I turned out like this, Moira. You know it would have been beaten out of me with cruelty and extreme prejudice. Can we drop it? What if you could go back and change it? Everything happens for a reason, love. My family had to die to save you and yours. The fact that I am lucky enough to be on this life journey with your family and not dead like mine is the blessing. Any other outcome of that fight leaves the good guys dead and the bad guys alive. What about your cousins? Moira's voice dropped in volume and took on a breathy tone. You think we should have taken them out too? He turned on her, his mouth agape. We wouldn't be in this mess if you had. They had to have known more than I did. They were older than me. They would have gone back to the collective and told them everything. Now they're back to take their revenge. John, she sniffled, tears streaming down her face. We aren't murderers. He exploded. They are. Don't you see that? It's kill or be killed. We could have been together if you had done the hard thing, but no. Your father wanted to be noble. I don't know what you want from me anymore, she said, wiping away the tears, her hand catching on the IV trailing to her arm under the blanket. I've tried everything. Crawford's posture deflated. Not everything, Moira. You can't accept my humanity. You pull away over and over. You get close and then you retreat again. You've been trying to protect me. His voice turned pleading. Moira, you act like I have no idea what I've gotten myself into. We've rehashed this over and over. I do know what I got myself into. I've watched over you and your family for close to 30 years. I know what you are capable of. I've watched you all shift between forms. I see the pain, your pain. Don't you dare think that it doesn't hurt me every time. I know I can't take your pain away, but don't belittle my capacity to see it and feel my own. I'm sensing some tension here. Finn's voice startled them from the doorway. Crawford flushed crimson, briskly walking away from Moira, past Finn, and out the bedroom door. Moira flinched with its slam. Well then, I see that you're back to breaking his heart. Finn crossed to her, sitting on the trunk bench she had carefully redesigned to fit her Gothic motif and set at the foot of her bed. He sat with his elbows on his knees, leaning forward to look upward into her face. His sister's eyes widened in surprise. I don't know what you're talking about, Finn. I'm not oblivious, sis, he chuckled. I've suspected for years. Crawford confessed when you returned and collapsed, nearly dead. I'm 44 years old and the head of this family. Don't keep treating me like I'm your wet-behind-the-ears kid brother. Moira looked confused. Dad's the head of the family. And besides, I'm the eldest, so I'm next. Then you should have stayed and acted like it. He pushed himself back, leaning against the carved footboard. He held up a finger when she opened her mouth to protest. No, you abandoned the family and left Dad to pick up the pieces. Then where is Dad? He's dead. What? When? She cried. You should have told me. Oh, really, Moira? And how do you think we would have done that? A forwarding address? An active cell phone? Exactly how were you expecting us to contact you? 7 years you've been gone, disappeared without a trace. Ashlyn only recognizes you from photographs. and Ronan has no memory of Auntie Moira whatsoever. Everyone scattered. You left, then Dad died. What was left to keep us together? So everyone blames me. No one blames you, Moira. Jesus! Why are you always acting the martyr? Isn't that what you're doing? Poor Finn, left in charge? A bit of fire returned to her eyes as she glared at him from the safety of her cocoon. She's feeling better, he thought. That's good. Look, sis, you have to understand. A lot's happened since you've been gone. You have to get up to speed, but you have to get better first. He ran his fingers through his hair in frustration, a gesture Moira recognized from their youth. Finn, what aren't you telling me? Her gaze softened, confusion and worry replacing the previous big sister scorn. So much, he muttered. So much that I don't even know where to start. In fact, to make some sense of it, I think I have to know what happened to you and how it happened first. Where did you go? Why have you been gone so long? How did you get sick? That's a lot to go over. Like you said, I've been gone a half-dozen years or so. Moira glanced at the wall of bookshelves and the ancient tomes carefully organized on them. Not a single work of fiction rested among them. I see Lavinia and Cordelia have kept my room spotless. Yes, they have kept hope that you would come back. Don't change the subject. He stood and crossed to her Spanish-made desk, its gleaming walnut surface carefully polished. He pulled a small traveler's notebook out of his cargo pocket and sat in the chair. Without looking over his shoulder at her, he opened it and took the fountain pen in his long, slender fingers. Why don't you start at the beginning, with the Field Notes version, and we'll go from there. She sighed, reaching for the cup of chamomile tea still steaming on her side table. I need my copy of The Book of Werewolves by Baring Gould. It should be on the second shelf from the top, over by my bathroom. Finn groaned and stood back up. Because of course you do. He retrieved the volume, its spine covered in gilded vines and scrolls. The front showed a majestic and savage wolf, crouched, ready to spring, its teeth bared. This is old. Where'd you get it? Auction, she said flatly as she reached for the book and set her teacup back on the table. He handed it over carefully. Dad foot the bill for that? He always funded my research. She flipped carefully to the near middle of the book, where a plastic sleeve protected the pages from the ink on her handwritten notes. I could have easily purchased a 1973 reproduction of this book at a thrift store or a new copy from a commercial book retailer. But this aesthetic kept my attention better. He sat down again in the desk chair, intrigued by her research process. What makes this book so special? He asked. Baring Gould was an Anglican priest and well known for his nonfiction. This is probably the most famous piece of werewolf literature from the early 19th century, written from a practical standpoint rather than a fantastical one. Everything else seems to be about the horrors of lycanthropy and labels us as monsters. Baring Gould wrote from a legend and myth perspective, gathering the stories to present them in an academic lens. She's in her element, Finn thought. She would have made an excellent mother or teacher. So, what did you find out? His hand stood ready with the pen to take notes. She delicately turned the pages back a few chapters. The only mentions of wolves in Ireland and Ireland-adjacent info that I found here were a sentence talking about dear old St. Patrick cursing the Welsh king Veriticus to become a wolf, and a St. Natalis. She placed a pointed nail on the text and read, It said that he pronounced anathema upon an illustrious family in Ireland, in consequence of which every male and female take the form of wolves for 7 years, and live in the forests and career over the bogs, howling mournfully, and appeasing their hunger upon the sheep of the peasants. He cites this information from a Filippo Hartung. In other research, both Natalis and Patrick were said to have cursed people with the 7-year cycles. I thought you told me when we were younger that the Irish thought of werewolves as protectors, Finn remarked. Oh, they did. Called us Féilead. Remember that Ireland was filled with pagans who merged Patrick's Christian beliefs with their traditional ones. In fact, the werewolves were not prevented from partaking of the sacraments during their wolf cycles. Throughout literature, there are stories of priests administering the sacraments to the wolves. The curse was a cyclical punishment for not believing in Christ. Although they ultimately converted to Christianity, the curse remained. But Baring Gould waxes on for most of this book about Scandinavian and Nordic tales, and of course the French and their loup-garou lore. He is suspiciously silent about Ireland. Why? And this has to do with why you left? Finn looked at his page and saw he had only written one word. Feilud. Yes, absolutely. The last grey wolf sighting in Ireland was recorded in 1786. Our family, presumably all werewolves, left Ireland around 1850, during the potato famine. Baring Gould, who is from neighboring England's Exeter, wrote this and published it about 15 years after we left in 1865. She shifted her loose-leaf notes. That made me wonder, if wolves had all but disappeared from the island, why did we wait 6 decades until the Great Hunger to leave? Why did we actually run? Was survival no longer guaranteed? Why did we abandon our Irish brethren for America? Were we run off? Moira abandoned her rhetorical questions for a moment. She pored over her notes as if she had never seen them before. Baring Gould chose not to tell the Irish wolf tales. Did he know us? He traveled all over Europe as a child with his family. He surely would have known of the Irish legends as well. I had to go to Ireland to find out. Finn spoke softly, as if to a scared animal. What did you learn? Moira's face twisted in disgust, and she slammed the papers onto the book in her lap. Nothing! I traveled to the hamlets and remote villages, and the people either didn't know anything, or they refused to share what they did know with an American stranger. Why do you want to know the reasons we left? What if the collective has been around that long, or longer? She turned to him. As a secret cabal, there isn't any information on them. Were they responsible for the Norman invasion that took out the supposed werewolves of Ossory? The kings and people whom Patrick, or Natalis, cursed? Aha, I see. Finn's voice grew thoughtful. Werewolves are scattered, fending for ourselves ever since then. We have no governing structure and no way to know of each other until we meet in the wild. But if the collective has been around all this time as an organization, whether we do or don't meet, it doesn't help us either way. Exactly. If we gather together, it makes it easier to find us. If we don't, it's easier for them to pick us off, a family at a time, without the others knowing. Okay, how long were you in Ireland? He looked at his notebook again, a crude drawing of a werewolf timeline forming. He began another entry on the facing page, starting with the year 2013, when Moira disappeared. I was there until 2015. I emailed Dad everything I learned and didn't find. He didn't share that with you? Of course not. I think he expected you to actually come back and take up your place as head of the family. Finn tapped the pen on the page. Moira ignored the verbal barb, continuing. I moved across the English Channel to France, specifically Normandy. I figured the French wolf community would be more helpful, but I couldn't find them. Dad stopped responding, so it was even more difficult. She picked at the blanket fringe, irritation in her voice. He died in 2015, Moira. That's why he stopped responding. Why didn't you call or come home to see why? I knew Lachlan had taken up residence in Ethiopia. Between his crusade and your wedding to Odette, I figured Dad had more immediate concerns on his plate. How is your lovely wife, anyway? Finn flinched. She is not my wife. Oh, Finn, what happened? Her eyes softened. It's not important. She is here, by the way, and I would appreciate you not bringing up our aborted nuptials. Finn turned to her again. I mean it, Moira. I asked her to come when you arrived, when you collapsed. The family is mostly here or on the way, except for Lachlan. His crusade, as you call it, has him as incommunicado as you were. I watched Fiona in Paris. She seems happy as a librarian. He barked a laugh. Don't let her hear you call her a librarian. His voice turned reflective. She never said she saw you. Because she didn't. I saw her. Anyway, I left France after a year, moving on to Denmark. Many of Baring Gould's tales from that region revolved around cures. Not that I want to be fully human, but I know others would, including you. If there is a cure that can save us all from the collective, it should be an option made available to anyone who wants it. How altruistic of you, sis, Finn murmured. As with anything, this life isn't for everyone. Being born to a cobbler doesn't have to make you a cobbler. I understand is a bit different. That's a job, an occupation. Being a werewolf is in our DNA. But what if it isn't? In the Causeway Books reproduction edition of Werewolves, Michael Lord wrote that we are humans who change into animal form through magic and lust for flesh. She tucked her notes back in their sleeve and the pages, shutting the book. Finn scratched his scruffy cheek. Neve mentioned something about that earlier when we met with Alpha Team. Neve and I stockpiled the lab with vials of my blood over several years so she could test if our lycanthropy is based in our DNA or not. She stopped researching when Ronan was born because we were coming up empty. We needed better context to direct the medical side of the research. Another reason I went on my trip. She shifted uncomfortably, scratching at the IV. So, the Danish leg of your trip. Anything new? Finn wrote Denmark next to 2016 on the timeline. Bupkis. After 6 months, I moved on to other Scandinavian countries, Norway and Sweden, then hopped over to Finland, rounding out a Nordic trek. Took me about a year and a half. Finn carefully marked the timeline with a brace between 2016 and 2017, ending it at 2019. And then I went to Novgorod, Russia, trailing the Viking angle, and then on to Kyiv, Ukraine. In Denmark, so much of the wolf symbolism was connected to the Vikings, which was reinforced by my trip through the Nordic countries. Obviously, not all Scandinavian or Nordic peoples were Vikings, and not all Vikings were from those areas, but that's where the trail took me. What happened in Kyiv? Finn continued to jot down dates and places into the Moira timeline. Around the time I arrived, their Special Operations Command adopted a new unit patch featuring a wolf with arrows in its mouth. The flag version added a girdle from their local werewolf legends, but otherwise looks suspiciously like the wolf on the original cover of Baring Gould's book. What's more, they explicitly state that it is not a normal wolf, but a werewolf. It was chosen to honor a Cossack legend of men with supernatural powers who could turn into wolves and catch arrows with their hands. Finn's pen faltered. They could do what? Exactly my reaction, too. I came across a local wolf who hides in plain sight as a scholar of their national myths. I tracked her to a quaint little coffee shop. She was wary until she realized we are kin of a sort, but we didn't speak of it. Near our table, we spotted what looked like Russian tourists. Ukrainians cannot be too careful. I'd assume not, Finn hissed. But what did she have on werewolves? We spoke about Vovkulaka, their word for werewolves, and through coded speech, she dropped that I may find more in Arabia. Arabia? You're just a regular globe-trotting Carmen Sandiego, aren't you? I look good in red, Moira deadpanned. The Bedouin have folklore about the Saluwa, an old woman who travels the desert in rags in search of her victims. When men try to help her, she transforms into an ugly and hairy wolf-like demon and devours them whole. There's a lot of misogyny in the tale, a criticism of the female gender, but it made me think of Lachlan and his Ethiopian wolves. Finn tapped the pen cap on his chin. You may be onto something, sis. I know I am. Because after a train trip through Romania and Bulgaria, I boarded a Turkish train in Istanbul. When it arrived in Sivas, I had to wait until the next morning to catch a bus to the Syrian border. She surreptitiously glanced at Finn's furiously scratching fountain pen as it ominously stopped. Are you fucking kidding me, Moira? A white woman heading to Syria during a massive civil war? Are you insane? I was researching the legends, right? The idea of a wolfman is heavily present in that region. The plan was to go to the heart of rural Turkey to learn more before traveling by bus through the mountains to Gaziantep, near the border. I was going to catch a flight from there to Tel Aviv. The plan was never Syria. Regardless, I was hungry and scouted out a late-night restaurant. On my way, I was accosted by two men and dragged into an alley. I felt a sting on the back of my neck and blacked out. I woke the next morning having missed my bus, but otherwise intact. You have got to be the most stubborn Irish-American werewolf I've ever known, Moira. Takes one to know one, Finn. He sighed. What happened next, for Christ's sake? I took the 7-hour train ride back to Istanbul, boarded a 3.5-hour flight to Paris. By that point, I felt so weak and ill to my stomach that I sprang for a direct flight from Paris to Seattle. Nearly 11 hours later, I landed. I was out of money, so I ran. Moira refused to raise her head and began to pick at her nails. Little brother is about to lose it. He shook his head sadly. Moira, why didn't you just call? We would have come to get you. I guess I wasn't thinking clearly. I just knew I needed to get home. The quickest way was running. In wolf form. Yes, in wolf form. I couldn't sit around in SeaTac just waiting. I needed out of the city. Okay. He raised a hand in surrender. I get it. Do you remember what happened on your run, if anything? He capped his pen and closed the notebook, sliding it discreetly into his pocket again. Moira's eyes glistened, and she sagged even deeper into the chair. No, I don't remember anything. Normally I can remember everything on my runs, but this time, nothing. Everything is hazy. I don't know how I got from the parking lot to Thistledown. You're tired. I should let you rest. He stood and walked toward her chair, bending as if to pick her up out of it. No, she waved him off. You need to tell me what you are hiding. Can you get into bed first so you can be comfortable and get rest as soon as I'm done? No. Now, Finn. Besides, if you hadn't noticed, this chair is large enough for me to sleep in, and the only thing that doesn't go with the rest of the decor. That was on purpose. She waved him back again. Talk, bro, and start from the time I left. He returned to the bench so she wouldn't crane her neck to look at him and sat, one leg tucked under the other. Okay. By Fenrir, it's been a lot. Don't bring that Chaos Demon's name into this. Moira's brow furrowed. But that's what it's been. After you left, Neve and Mick moved with the kids to town. Callum and Fiona stopped coming home as much. Lachlan stopped bothering to keep us up to date on where he was. Just me and Dad in the house. I'm sorry, Finn. I didn't realize. It's fine. We hired more security to make the house feel full, giving us more eyes and ears to alert the household if any of you came home. Dad turned the furniture business over to me to handle and locked himself away for weeks at a time in my study. Well, at the time it was his study. He was so young, even by human standards. How did he die? Moira's voice was soft. The most mundane and stupidest way to die, especially for a werewolf. Falling down the spiral stairs. You've got to be kidding me. The corner ones we fell down a bunch of times as kids? Never had so much as a scratch. Maybe some sore arm muscles and shoulder joints from grabbing the banister halting our fall, but those spiral stairs? Yeah, those stairs. I tried to catch him before he reached the bottom, but it was no use. His neck was broken. Finn paused, flicking a piece of non-existent lint off his knee. He had his notebook, including reset protocols on the security systems. He had everything in it that one of us needed to successfully take over. Now I learn about an unknown email account. We'll worry about that later. You all were living your lives, which is great, truly. But why did you call everyone home? Her brother sighed heavily, raising his eyes back to hers. The same night you arrived home, Callum was attacked in his home by 4 members of the collective. At her gasp, Finn continued, He's alive. They never got close. He took them all out. Whoever said that first-person shooters couldn't develop real-life skills was an idiot. And the debrief with Alpha Team was after cleanup. Yes, the collective wasn't there to kill him. Or at least not instantly. Not a single regular or tactical firearm among them. Every one of them carried a tranquilizer gun, loaded with glass vial darts, filled with a near-glowing green liquid. One shattered when it hit his stupid parquet flooring. What was it? At first, we didn't know. Gutierrez cleaned it up, but must have gotten some on a section of unprotected skin or through a small cut. By the time they passed Monroe, he couldn't see straight and was developing a fever. Mud ordered someone else to drive the plumber's van the rest of the way. Moira's fingers flew to her lips. Is he Louisa? Her brother nodded. Yes, his sister is here with him, and Gutierrez is okay, although worse off than you are currently. He's definitely still critical, but Neve believes he should recover. So she knows what it is. It's a cocktail of deadly canine viruses. Finn removed his eyeglasses and rubbed at the bridge of his nose. That's nothing for werewolves, Finn, she scoffed. Oh, except it's not. Not when they are a pair of specifically selected viruses, one that transmits to humans and can kill both. You were only infected with one, so it is in our DNA. You will have to talk to the scientific one, not me. I build furniture, Moira. Finn slouched against the footboard and returned his glasses to his face. You are more than that, Finn. Don't sell yourself short. She shifted in the chair again, the inactivity making her joints ache. You've managed to keep the house standing. Keep tabs on all of us as much as we allowed. Maintained both the family business and the family business. Put the right people in the right places and taken good care of our people. I'd say that's a sight more than just a carpenter. In any event, you can ask her what's in that IV of yours if you want. I zoned out after parvovirus. Moira was silent, and for a moment Finn wondered if she had disconnected from reality. She stared into space, breathing shallowly. Moira? She continued to sit silently for another moment, her breathing becoming ragged. Moira! Finn's voice rose in pitch, concern etching the edges. Finn, she started. Finn, it was the collective who got me in Sivas. I know what they are doing. What? What do you mean? They're poisoning the sugar ants. She lifted her chin, her eyes wide with horror. They are literally getting one of us to take out the whole den. Finn quietly analyzed what she said. Fuck. Dun dun dun.
You did well. Chug, 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 chug.
Well, Trisha, that's it for now. And yes, I did quote Baring Gould. I do not have the same edition that Moira does, but I do have an edition of the book. So yes, I did quote it, and there will be correct copyright and whatnot in it. But that was a lot of research over the course of 2 days writing that. So, and I saw. Thank you. Yeah, I've got a lot of moving parts in that. I saw that Julie guffawed a couple of times out of the corner of my eye. Specifically, the first shooter video games comment, the Carmen Sandiego comment, a few other things. Thank you, Dragana. Like I said, lots of research. I was looking up flight patterns and which cities had buses and trains and...
Yeah, it was definitely and of course I missed the beginning of it because Aries was having a hissy fit, so it's like but what I did catch, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Sorry.
It's cool, I'll catch it on the replay.
Well, I mean, especially there's, Gutierrez, whose first name is Mario, and he was driving a plumber's van.
Right.
Well, thank you. All right, let's move on from my long-winded stuff here, and let's go to Trisha, our lovely, give us a heart attack in very few short words, and let's see what she does to our poor heart conditions this week. It was a few months after our wedding when we went to the courthouse for Joe's Aunt Betsy's trial. Yes, bitch is going on trial. Woo! Sorry. She was sitting with her lawyer. She was not dressed as elegantly as she was when she broke into our home. She was sitting in an orange jumpsuit. The trial went about how we would it would go. She didn't seem to think she was going to be punished for what she did. When the judge said she was guilty and was sentenced to 10 years in the supernatural prison, she looked shocked. I am not one of those demons, she practically yelled. That is why you are going there, the judge said. You need to learn people who are different are just that. Different, not a demon or devil. Aunt Betsy was dumbfounded and tried to argue, but the judge ordered her to be removed from his courtroom. As she was being led away, she saw Joe and I. I've been trying to protect you, she pleaded. You have no idea what you're getting into. Actually, I do know what I'm getting into, Joe said, taking my hand, and I am happily going headlong into it. The police officers that walked her had to almost drag her out. Once she was gone, Joe let out the breath he was holding. I squeezed his hand, which made him look over to me. I smiled up at him. He smiled back before squeezing my hand back. We left not long after Aunt Betsy was gone. The rest of our day we spent cleaning the house and getting ready for work. We were in the kitchen cooking dinner when I thought of something. Hey, Joe, do we know what happened to Amy? I haven't heard anything about her, he said. I was thinking about her. Why? Joe asked. Well, I was thinking that she was the one who gave your aunt our address, I answered. Joe seemed surprised by that. You might be right. Dun, dun, dun.
That's not enough justice. What the hell?
Trisha Jones!
Trisha Jones, you are lucky you are not going to be in Green Bay with us because I would have words with you in 48 days.
Just dropping us right there. Had me stuttering there for a minute. Well, okay. You
I'll
have
give
a
you a
pass then.
pass.
You could get a
for
pass
now.
then. But if that's where
For
you purposely,
now.
if that's where you purposely left us, we might have to have words, ma'am. That was Aunt Betsy gets her comeuppance. That's yes. And I'm sorry, but Joe is the sweetest. He's happily going headlong into it. Oh, I love Joe. He's so supportive and amazing. Oof. Okay, let me go get a little bit more to drink. Okay? Okay. Okay, now Patrick's going to entertain with magic tricks. What?
No. I can't believe it's that close, Julie.
Look, Izzy's already had to talk me down off the ledge a couple of times already in the last 48 hours over it being that close. And I'm freaking out because everything that I wanted to do and be able to do looks like it's not going to get done. We'll talk about it after the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's stuff that I wanted to get done, be able to, nope, there's no way. There's no way to pull it off in 6 weeks. And I have had to come to terms with that. And then I'm gonna have to put in some wheel time to have the money for everything, but also put in the wheel time because apparently I have to go shopping before we embark. Because apparently I do not have the right wardrobe. And that was one of the things that me and Izzy were talking about like last night, which was the I am unapologetically me. You either like me or you don't. I really could give a rat's ass. I understand him as abrasive as steel wool, and I don't care.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I am who I am, and I'm unapologetically me. But at the same time, I do want to make a good impression with my readers. I do want to, have fun, make this the best show possible because it is the first one. But I also know with it being the first one, I'm going to fuck it up.
That's how you grow. You learn.
Right. And I completely understand that. But it's like I wanted 3 books, I'm going to have 1.
I wanted Jet out. I'm not going to have it. I mean,
okay, you wanted Jet out, but you did get Decoding Shady Pines and Kingdom of Shadows.
and you know how? This lovely show.
This right here. This is how you did it. Yeah, it's very much a learning curve, Izzy. It's very much a learning curve. But it's the learning curve of the I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that's already going to be an emotional weekend. That it's already going to be an emotional weekend. The fact that I've made it a year is already emotional enough. The fact that I get to cut loose, but I'm still going to be worried about what's going on back here at the house is definitely going to be one of those things. I'm going to have my little brother with me, which that's going to be fun. Because like literally damn near all of last summer we were together, but we were in and out of the junkyard.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things. He actually gets to see me in my element. And this is also going to go toward his hours for his internship. So the more we do over the summer, the less hours he's got to pull in the spring for his internship. For yeah, it's like me wearing the mom light hat. But I did tell him, like, look, you have to give me an hour. You have to come downstairs, do pictures, everything like that. Anything past that, he can go back up to the room. Yeah, I gotta put on the big sis hat. My big thing is the one thing I wanted done that we can't do because the person, okay, you guys have all seen me in my DoorDash shirts. The woman that made all my DoorDash shirts made them for $20 a piece. And because I was DoorDashing 7 days a week, I had 8 shirts made. We were good. I got cut for a deal because I had ordered so many. and literally it was just a printout of DoorDash across the front of the shirt. I went to her because the printer I was going to use right now, while they are looking for clients, they are behind on orders. So they were never going to be able to get everything in on time. I wanted like specific t-shirts because I want to be able to go down there one day, like just t-shirt and jeans, like I am who I am. Just leave me alone. I can't have t-shirts made.
What will you? This will be a Discord conversation
Right. This is a Discord conversation. But it's
because
okay. You got an idea?
where's my fairy wand? Because I got wings, honey.
Oh boy.
You don't need a shirt, babe, but the whole thing is
I know why you were going to do it. That way, if somebody was looking for or whatnot, they know that Isaac and I are with you and we can direct them, kind of thing. I get that. I totally get that.
well, that, I can yell out DeFisher in the middle of the room, and anyone wearing a DeFisher shirt will either sound off or be able to locate the one that we're missing.
That's true, but
Isaac with the cochlear implant, and because he hasn't been wearing the cochlear implant, because they have to adjust it, only works about half the time.
that's fair.
So when he's in the loud room, like the room we're gonna be in, he's gonna have it turned down enough where he can still hear us, but he might not be able to hear us.
No, I get it. And you're putting on your big sis hat again, worrying about things that we don't know yet. So
Right.
you're
But
you're okay. You're okay. All right. So it is already 11:15, and we got a couple of more to go through here real quick. Next one's a little bit long because, it's my bestie in the whole wide world, Cash.
It's Cashews.
And her loquacious self rivaling me. I just had to play catch up. So, here we go. Another story. I looked up at the clock on my dashboard and realized it was 8:30 in the evening. I looked around, having absolutely no idea where I was. I found myself looking around at both myself inside the car and out the windows. I saw soap suds crusted across areas of the hood and along the edges of the windows. I remembered looking at the clock on my dashboard as the conveyors in the car wash started to pull my car through. It had been 2:03. I remembered because I had checked the time to make sure that I wasn't going to be late for the meeting at the biotech company based in my town. I had decided to pull out the medical journal that my latest paper had been published in. I wanted to read some of the counter arguments to my interpretations on my PhD dissertation. My molecular biology research had been very lucrative for me and had gained me a lot of attention in the medical community the world over. I had received a lot of negative attention due to the nature my studies had taken. Many experts were calling into question the ethics behind the changes to both society and human biology that it might come from what I had discovered. It would be the birth of a new era for humanity, all due to the questions I had been asking over the past few years. Then almost 6.5 hours of time had passed, and I had no idea how. I also obviously hadn't made it all the way through the car wash. From what I could tell, I had somehow ended up in the middle of a wheat field that seemed to go forever. I heard a humming or a buzz that felt like it was rattling my skull. It felt like it was in my brain. It was irritating, making it hard for me to get my bearings. I decided to take another look around the outside of the car, and to the right side of the hood, I saw a figure standing off in the field. The low light made it hard to make out any features. The general shape said human, but something just felt off. They stood there, looking at me while I looked at them. I thought about my situation, all while trying to look around and keep an eye on the person at the same time. I couldn't see anything but possibly a shadowy tree line in the distance on one side. No buildings, no sign of human habitation, nothing to help me figure out where I was. The buzzing in my head became incessant, and louder. I looked back toward the figures, seeing they had come closer to the car. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and a shiver traveled down my spine as I noticed more details in their features. She looked to be in her mid to late 30s. Dark hair framed a almost cherubic face, which had a deadpan look across its features. The blank stare in her eyes chilled me to the bone, and I couldn't figure out why. I looked down in discomfort, then looking back up, my anxiety urging me to know what was happening around me. I looked her in the eyes again, and it struck me what it was about her face that was unsettling. Her face was mine. She kept coming closer to the car, closer to me. Was she me? My heart raced as the stranger walked around to the driver's side of the car, bending down to look in the window at me. She placed her hand on the door handle, lurching the door open, reaching her arm into the car and grabbing me by the front of my shirt with one hand and my face with the other, whatever had been in her hand covering my face entirely. I blacked out. Yeah, definitely nothing like some of your past pieces. I opened my eyes, looking around my surroundings. I was in another unfamiliar place. This time I was strapped to a metal table in a white-walled room with a light source I couldn't figure out. It felt bright, too bright, so I closed my eyes again for a few minutes, opening them again and looking toward my feet in hopes my eyes wouldn't be as blinded. It was better, but still not great. I was unsure what was happening. I tried looking around the room the best I could, but couldn't see anything else. I heard what sounded like a sliding door behind my head, so I tried to look behind me to see who had entered. Out of my periphery, I saw a figure that I soon realized was the me that wasn't me. The woman with my face, but different somehow. It was all too surreal for me. "Who are you?" I asked her. She looked at me, tilting her head. "I'm you. After." She walked closer to me. "After? After what?" I was confused. "After it all fails. After your discovery kills over half the human population." She was next to the table, standing over me. Our eyes locked, and I figured out what it was about her that had unsettled me to begin with. Her eyes were haunted with the guilt of being responsible for an atrocity. "Oh," was my response. We continued to look at each other uncomfortably for a minute. 2. "Why did you bring me here?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. "I brought you here to make a choice." She was gently tapping her fingers on the ledge of the table, averting her eyes. It was the finger movements for my favorite piano piece. The tapping was something I did when I was anxious and needed to think. "What is the choice?" I watched as she continued tapping her fingers on the table. I really wanted to do the same, but because of how I was restrained, my fingers couldn't move the right way. "The choice," she sighed, the tapping getting more intense. "The choice is that I return you back to the time you came from, and you retract everything. Say that there were flaws you didn't anticipate or something, anything. It doesn't matter. Just say it's not valid and won't work." She looked back at me, putting her hands back down at her side. "And the other option?" I asked hesitantly. "The other option is that I kill you. Kill us. Before we publish the research." She finally said, "I didn't like either option." "I really don't understand. What happened? It's supposed to help extend lives and make things better. How does it kill so many?" I wanted an explanation. We were always the quiet one, back when we were in school. If only I had known then what I know now, I would have never gone down the path I did. I wouldn't have gone as far as I did. I would have done something louder. She started to tap her fingers again. I was getting really unnerved by everything. "What do you mean by that? How did me being quiet in school have anything to do with anything?" Again, I was confused. "Just give me a straight answer. What happens that my research is so dangerous it kills so many?" I was feeling really anxious and just wanted to know so I could decide. "I'm trying to protect humanity," she said, almost pensively. You had no idea what you were getting us all into. Her eyes were downcast again. The tapping resumed as her breathing started to get a little faster. I just waited for her to continue. Sorry, I'm unnerved in so many different ways.
You think?
Whew.
Ma'am.
Whew. Your discovery, our discovery, wasn't what we thought it was. It wasn't some monumental miracle of genetics taking the human race forward. No. What we discovered was basically a genetic kill switch. What we uncovered was proof that we, humans, were genetically engineered by an alien species. Once I tripped that switch, there was no going back. She looked at me, her head shaking gently side to side, tears forming in her eyes. You never know when someone will just mutate. There's no telling because we all have the code in our bodies, ourselves included. I had hoped it would be fine. Well, it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine once we started performing procedures on others. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. All it took was one of them to look at one person. Then, with the right DNA coding from them, they become one of them. We opened Pandora's box, and they don't like what we humans have become. We did not become what they wanted us to be, so now they hunt us. We are their failed experiment. She finished as she looked to the side, her eyes growing wide. She started to back away from the table toward the wall closest to my feet. Dr. Allison? The voice was deep and distorted. I tried to look behind me to see what was there. I couldn't turn far enough to see anything. Dr. Allison, you need to come with us. A slightly different, yet still distorted voice spoke. I still couldn't see who was speaking, even though I tried. I'm just trying to fix this. I want to fix everything. I want all to make everything better. She was pleading, whoever it was. I suddenly had a thought of what was happening. My heart started racing at the thought. Started racing at the thought? I'm sorry, how is her heart not already racing? I'm just...
Is it racing faster at the thought? I mean,
I
because if it started racing,
My heart is racing. And I'm just reading the shit. Whew.
yeah.
Whew. Whew. And my nose is itching. That always happens when the other shoe's about to drop. Whew.
Yep.
Ah.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, we're not there yet. There's still more. You can surrender and come with us, or we will deal with you like we have all the others who have resisted. She was against the wall, shaking, screaming at whoever it was. Then I saw them, what she had been talking about before they had come in. I don't want to go. I just want to fix this. I promise. We won't wake you up this time. She slid down the wall, covering her head with her arms as one of the beings approached her. They had to have been about 7 to 7.5 feet tall, with stretched, distorted human features. But what disturbed me were the eyes. They had huge, almond-shaped eyes that took up about half of each side of their faces. They were devoid of any features other than being black. The second one came around looking at me and then turned to look at the other me. Stop. Don't do anything yet. They spoke to their companion, who turned around to look at me. The first one looked back at me, curled up by the wall. Dr. Allison? The second one asked me. Yes? I was hesitant, confused, and scared the fuck out of my mind. No shit! Just... no shit. Why are there two of you? They asked, sounding innocently confused. I don't know. I was at the car wash getting my car taken care of, and then the next thing I know, I'm sitting in an empty field, my car still half covered in soap suds. Then I see her, and I blacked out, and then I was here. She said I had a choice to make. I told both of them. Both looked at me, and they looked at each other. This must be Dr. Allison from before we were woken up, the first one said to the other. They both then looked at the other me, who had started crying, begging for her life. This is an interesting situation, the second one said. If we kill the one on the table, we undo everything. She'll have never started the experiments, the first one said. Its huge eyes were right over me, staring through me. I was asking her just to retract the research, to never start the experiments. The other me yelled at them through her tears. That's true, but it was published. What would stop someone else from using the research to do the same? Number one asked the other me, turning away from the table to look at her again. Maybe she didn't go far back enough? Maybe she didn't go far enough back, I asked. I wasn't sure if these beings were for or against changing the past. I was very quickly finding myself in the for camp. No, she didn't. But you could. The second one looked at me. I could see my reflection in their eyes. What do you mean? I was pretty wary of where this was going. Do we give them another chance? The second one asked the first. What do you mean? The first one asked. Do we give the humans a second chance? If we send her back to right before she published her research and have her convince her previous self to not publish and drop the research altogether, it would be a second chance, the second one explained. Maybe give her a seed of something else to work on instead, something that would take the humans in the way we'd like them to go. The first one blinked for the first time since they had come into the room. Maybe. The second one started to pace, looking like they were thinking. What would we give her to work on instead? The second one stopped, turning to look at the first one again. It would need to be something within her field of expertise. Something that wouldn't inadvertently wake us up from their DNA again. The first one put one of its elongated fingers on its cheek, the finger extending up along the side of its skull. There are too many options that could still go wrong. I think we need to go further back. Maybe have her convince an older version to pick a different field of expertise? The second then looked at me. What do you think? Do you think you can influence yourself to pick something else to study? They asked me. I had to think about it. Could I? Could I convince myself to do something different? I honestly don't know. I really wasn't interested in anything else. I didn't want to lie. I felt like they would know if I did. What if one of us was with you? The first one asked. I mean, it would scare the shit out of a younger me at least. Maybe too scared. Like I am now? The two beings looked at each other again. I looked at the wall where the other me was just sitting, staring at the interaction. I was starting to have trouble thinking. I just wanted out of the entire mess. How will going back and convincing myself to pick a different field to study affect me? Doesn't that create some type of loop in time or a paradox? I asked. It might, but it might work too, the first replied, walking back to me and placing one of its hands on me. I wasn't sure if I trusted them or not. Would you trust that idea? I looked at the other me sitting by the wall, rocking back and forth. I don't know. I really wouldn't. I don't think they are going to have the best intentions, especially if one goes back with you. She looked up, her eyes going back and forth between the two, whatever they were. She had said aliens, but I wasn't sure I believed that. Her hesitation is understandable. This whole thing has not gone well for you humans, but we are not unreasonable. The first one looked back at me again. They reached out and touched my face with their finger. Their skin felt rubbery and dry. I was not fond of the sensation. It pulled its hand away, looking at the second one. I would think if they could travel back in time and do something harmful, they would have done it on their own. Don't you think? I asked the other me. She seemed to stop and consider what I had said. She sighed and looked back at me forlorn. I still wouldn't trust anything any of them say or do. They are very two-faced, she answered me finally. The second one walked over to her, looming over her.
You humans haven't exactly proven yourselves trustworthy, so I would consider what you say, they said as it shifted on its long legs. I was feeling a mix of fascination and revulsion with the creatures, knowing that they more than likely had been human at once from what the other me had said. The second one turned away from the other me and came back over to the table. They also touched my face with their rubbery fingers, making the goose pimples rise all over my body, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. It stared at me with its large, black, almond shaped eyes. I was starting to feel somewhat paranoid about them. I wondered if the future version of me felt like this all the time. All of a sudden, I felt dizzy, not sure what was happening. I was sure it had to do with something the second one was doing, but I wasn't sure what it was. Don't look directly in their eyes, I heard the other me yell, followed by a muffled scream that sounded far away. The room had started to spin really fast. I was still strapped to the table. I tried to look away from the second, close my eyes, anything, but I found my gaze locked with their eyes. You can trust us, I promise. I heard the second's voice in my head. I shook my head, trying to shake the disorientation I was feeling having them in my head. I wanted them out. Get out of my head, please, I begged them. My head felt like it was going to explode. It hurt so bad. Why? I asked, unsure if I had done something wrong or if this had been the plan all along. From the way the other me acted, it had probably been their plan the entire time. My eyes began to tear up as I managed to close my eyes, breaking the hold they had on me. The throbbing in my head threatened to make me nauseous. Why did you do that to me? I asked the second, keeping my eyes closed. That normally works better. I don't understand why it did not work, they said to the first. I will help and we will try again, I heard the first. They weren't hiding what they were trying to do. I felt the first one place their hands around my head. I then felt their fingers on my eyelids, trying to open them to force me to look the second in the eyes again. I wondered if they had interpreted my hesitancy as not wanting to work with them. Not that they weren't far off with that assumption, but now I definitely wasn't going to work with them. The first finally succeeded in forcing my eyes open and making me look at the second. I felt the pounding in my head getting worse again as the second looked me in the eyes. You can trust us. You know that you can. Look deep in your mind, and you have the answer. They were in my mind again. I began to struggle against them, trying to push them out of my mind. Fighting me is not going to make it better. You will find the more you fight, the more pain you will feel. Just let me in, and I will show you where you need to look. My head was starting to feel like it would explode again. I didn't like the feeling, but I didn't want to give in to them either. The pressure in my head started getting worse, and I tried to move my head to get the hands off me that were holding me captive, but I couldn't break free of either. This doesn't feel like the actions of someone. I couldn't finish what I wanted to say. Look within. I heard the second's voice in my head again. I screamed as the pain in my head was almost unbearable. I felt something within me break as my mind couldn't take the intrusion anymore. My mind went blank. Then I blacked out. I looked around the room as I ducked under the doorframe, walking into the room. The ceiling was low for my height. I had become taller when they went into my mind and changed me. The transformation had been painful, yes, but I could see now what they had meant about knowing I could trust them. Again, I ducked, stepping into the closet of the bedroom of the home I had shared with my parents when I was getting ready to choose my major at university. So that I could better fit in the closet, I crouched down till I was sitting, my legs folded up under me. I needed to wait till the young version of me came home from going out with friends. I knew what I was supposed to do. They had trained me how to switch bodies, making it so I could take over the body of my younger self, and she would, in turn, inhabit this one. Then I would hit the button for them to recall my current body, taking her to the future while I stayed in the past, trying to give humanity a second chance by choosing a different path. Now I sit here and I wait. Dun, dun, dun. What the actual ever loving fuck?
That was good.
Yes, Stavros, I'm with Stavros. My brain hurts. My brain hurts.
I got lost there for a minute, but I quickly caught back up.
Yes, Dragrana, this is what we do. Every Saturday night, our prompters, our audience, pick the prompt, spend all week writing it, and then favorite chaos reader over here presents it, and everybody loves my reactions when I'm yelling and screaming at them or freaking out because they scare the ever-loving bejeebus out of me. And speaking of being scared and having the ever-loving bejeebus scared out of me, up next is Dahlia.
Oh my God, no. We had a Cash Dahlia situation.
We had a Cash Dahlia situation. Back to back.
Okay.
I'm
Dahlia,
okay.
do not throw up that little devil like that. You know what you're doing.
She is sweet, pure, and innocent. You leave my Dahlia alone.
And
Dahlia,
I'm Shirley freaking Temple.
Dahlia, and now
On the good ship, Lollipop.
So I used to say that Dahlia was single-handedly dragging me kicking and screaming into enjoying and reading the horror genre. And now Kesh, my bestie of 20-something, close to 30 years, is also adding on to that. I don't do aliens. I don't do aliens unless they're nice, sweet, kind. I might do some Goa'uld from SG-1, but beyond that, just mm-mm. But now I want to know.
You don't want Gaul, you want Tok'ra.
No, I mean the Goa'uld were, instrumental in the storyline, like throughout all of it.
I know,
Without-
but they were the bad ones. Tok'ra were the nice ones.
I know. I have the entirety of SG-1, all 10 seasons, and the TV movies. So, anyway, next up is Dahlia, who we love. And I'm not supposed to say what the title is. So, just apparently that might give too much away. So, let's see where we're going with this. Hello, beautiful. How are you doing? A tall man said. I stared at him as he held his hand out. Hesitating, I grabbed his hand without a word, looking deep into his violet eyes. We danced around the room with all the other classmates, not speaking a word. I could feel their glares of disgust. My eyes were glued to this strange man. Whenever I tried to look away from him, he leaned his face up to mine on the side. I tried to turn my head. It's as if he could sense my actions before my intuition kicked in. You are always the quiet one in your friend group. You created such a mystery around yourself. I like that about you. Please, if I would, love to know more about you. If you would let me, the man whispered into my ear. Everyone knows who and what I am. What more is there to learn about me? There is so much to learn about you. Please allow me to know you. I don't even know your name. Aiden. Hello, Aiden. Share yourself with me, Jezebel. There's nothing more to share. There is everything. You are more than the rumors. You are a person that has beauty that's begging to blossom. a flower reaching for the sunlight, ever so close, yet so far. That, lost for words, I stuttered, trying to think of the right word to say. Before I could get anything else out, I was drenched. The cold water dripped onto the floor, creating a large puddle around me and Aiden. Taking a step out of Aiden's arms, I did a head to toe to see the damage. He also got soaked. I looked around to see a crowd of people formed around us, 6 of my other classmates with empty cups in their hands. I am sorry, I cried, pushing my way through the crowd. Finding a quiet room, I closed the door, collecting myself as I called and waited for my ride home. I knew this wasn't going to end well when Aiden entered the cloakroom and shut the door, anger on his face for a moment before he masked it. You should go. Nothing good will come from this, I said. I turned my head away, looking down at my shimmering gray dress. Now making me cold, I wanted nothing more than to take it off and change into something else. Do you need a ride home? My ride is coming. He was now beside me. Blanket in hand, he wrapped it around me and held me close. We can't do this. I barely know you. You will just end up caught up in everything. The worst is yet to come, I said, looking into his eyes. I would leave just because life gets hard. Life is hard. Stories don't come from things always being rainbows and sunshine. If it never rains, the rainbow at the end will never be visible. We might get a moment, sometimes hours of joy in one's life. Let me be that person for you. Be there when the going gets tough, so when the end is near, we can say we lived fulfilling lives. No, I have to go. This pains me because you say things that make me want to crawl into your arms and call you mine. But I will destroy that passion inside you merely by my presence in your life alone, I said, moving away from him. Walking towards the door, he followed. Please don't follow me. I will walk you to your ride. Please let me show you who I am. I shall let you blossom one way or another, I promise. I am trying to protect you. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into associating with me. Dun dun dun. What?
What in the hell?
I
Dahlia?
That wasn't scary. That was like cliffhanger. Like, what the hell? What the hell?
Even Dahlia, you can't act innocent behind them eyes.
No, you can't.
The
Throwing
cliffhanger
us,
was scary. Like,
throwing us for a freaking loop. Holy, like now I gotta know, like what the hell? I mean, for a moment there, I thought we were gonna deal with a Carrie situation.
well, kind of we did because we don't know what. Yeah,
Right.
she got liquid poured on her. It was
But
more
then
of a.
but then she apologizes instead of like being scared or anything. Like, she's
Well,
not
it
scared
was
of them.
the '90s movie. She's All That,
Yeah.
where the bitch pours the damn drink down the front of her dress and.
Right, but she's like not mad at them. She's apologizing. You know? It's I don't
There's more to the story, or there better be.
there's always more to the story. More to the story, more to the story. Oh my. All right, and last but not least, our fearless leader, Julie DeFisher. Now,
I forgot I was up next.
yeah, you forgot you were up next. Now, this is our last submission of the night. It is not prompt based. However, this sucker, I have heard most of it just because Julie didn't think that she was going to do anything for this week. But I want y'all to give honest feedback, okay? Just please do, because we know Julie's got amazing stories in her, and this one apparently had her in the grips of dream world for several days until she finally got it out. So this is what we're going to go with. All right? Ready, Freddy? Sitting behind the long wooden table, hands clasped in her lap, face as steadfast as stone, Brantley awaited her fate. The sounds of the courtroom were mere murmurs, too faint to make out every conversation. Not that she was trying to pay attention to anything besides the door the judge and jury would enter back through. She knew what everyone thought of her. There was no impartial jury in the county, let alone the country. The irony wasn't wasted on her. It wasn't long ago she was the hunter, bringing victims justice, but now she was the one on trial, barely breathing as the 12 people decided what to do with her. To the outside world, this was an open and shut case of homicide. A man was dead, killed in the most methodical way. He was hung by his ankles and drained of every last drop of blood. The only evidence the prosecution had was her presumed footprints at the scene, which honestly could have been anyone's. No murder weapon, none of the blood, or even a drop of proof she was actually even there. But here she sat, the scapegoat and the sacrificial lamb for something much bigger than any of these people could even understand. Then again, how do you explain to thousands of people about things that go bump in the night? A hush fell over the gallery as the bailiff entered, calling everyone back to their seats. As the judge entered, and then the jury, everyone rose, sucking every ounce of air from the room. The bailiff took a small scrap of paper from the foreman and presented it to the judge. The scowl that appeared on his face told her everything that she needed to know, and now waited to be said aloud. Jury foreman, do you have a verdict? The judge's eyes stayed steady and cold. We do, Your Honor. The man spoke clearly and without hesitation. How do you find the defendant, Brantley Lee Snow? The foreman sucked in a sharp breath before looking her in the eyes. We, the jury, find the defendant on the first count of murder in the first degree, not guilty. On the second count of tampering with evidence in the first degree, not guilty. On the third count, unlawful entry into a secure facility in the first degree, not guilty. The room erupted into gasps and shouting before the judge banged his gavel, calling for order. Your Honor, the DA spoke in near disbelief. Not now, Mr. Pulaski. All jurors are free to go with the court's thanks. The judge looked at Brantley hard. Mrs. Snow, you are free to leave. Thank you, Your Honor. Brantley shook the hands of her lawyers, gathered her things, and walked through the sea of bodies that were exiting the courtroom. The two sets of eyes she locked onto as she left had her blood running cold. The first belonged to the victim's battered wife, Rebecca, the one witness the prosecution never called. Not that Brantley was worried about her, at least not in that way. The second was Kenneth Vincelli, a soldier for the Marino family. His tough guy facade was only cracked by the smirk that was plastered onto his face. Unfortunately, Brantley knew by the look in his eyes he was never going to let her live this one down. Dun dun dun.
I want more.
Holy fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Go ahead, keep those comments going. Hey? Oh, thank you, Dragona. We try. We really try.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Where this one falls, I believe it's technically the third book
Double-edged.
of the Double Edge series, but we're not sure. It still could be something totally different.
What do you mean a lot of it is Izzy? I mean, I appreciate the compliment, and then Kesh is over here saying a lot of it is Izzy, though. No. All I do is bring your words to life, okay? That's it.
Right. You
That's
might
it.
be the voice behind it. You might be the cheerleader and the confidant and everything like that in there, but
Aw. Yeah, but how am I going to perform if I don't have your guys' words? So this is really a team effort. That's why you guys are referred to as the prompters, right? You're part of the family, you're part of the team. There may be people who actually do the presenting, do the merch, do the marketing and everything else, and submit, but we're all prompters, right? We're all part of this team, and I think we've got something special, and we're going to bring this specialty to Twitch. I don't know if anybody else who has recently come over, gone and looked at some of the other writing and reading streams, but we're different.
we are different. And not just in the funny way.
Yeah.
Well, we already knew that. Come on now.
Thank you. Love that. Thank you for stopping by too. That is absolutely.
I mean, that's the whole thing. And hey, you know anybody who isn't doing anything on a Saturday night? Send them over.
Send them over. Send them over. On top of that, I mean, I don't know that your stream viewers would be up our alley, but there is the option for raids. We'll talk. We'll talk. We're still so small, so you never know. But yes, invite everyone, people who like to read, write. We touch a little bit on every single genre. We've got horror, we've got romance, we've got adventure, we've got thriller mystery, we've got mafia,
And
we've got
all
fantasy.
on what the role is
Yep.
and what everybody picks. We've actually had, unbeknownst to anybody, we literally in 1 week had like the entire theme was mystery, even though that's not what the freaking prompt was. It's like,
Yeah.
but that just happens to be the flavor that we were going with that week, and nobody knew until we got to the show that night.
Yeah. Everybody
Because
puts.
this is read before we go online.
Yeah. That's what I absolutely love. And for those who are watching this on playback and whatnot, I do not, except for this last one, because Julie was floating it by me as just a regular writing, reading, friends, what do you think kind of thing. I don't read them ahead of time. I go into this completely blind so that you do get the what the fuck and the freakouts and the oh, that is great.
Yeah, we
No.
have a thing, make Izzy react completely on it. And us, on the other hand, that's our thing. So if anybody usually has a thing, they come to me.
Yeah.
The only problem is that when it's my stuff, unless I know for a fact that we're gonna get hit for that night or anything like that, I either have to go to Patrick or I have been known to go to Cash and everybody like that, trying to keep things rolling. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yep. And again, the only reason that I knew about that one ahead of time was because it wasn't for the prompt, right?
Nope.
It was just, and that's something that we also want to do. Maybe you don't have the ability to write for the prompt, but you've got this thing turning around in your head and you're just kind of like, I want to know what other people think, right? Is this something? Can I make more into it? You know, we just ask that. Obviously, there are some things like Stavros's chapter 11. No, we're not going to do that on live. We do reserve the right to protect the world from certain things, right? We are marked as a not for children Twitch, and our YouTube channel for the rebroadcast is also marked for not for children. But within reason, there are certain things we're not going to put out there. Now, that being said, it's time. It's time for our rolls. Now, before we do that, though, the next week starts May. Okay?
It's gonna be May.
So, March was my birthday, and we had a special extra challenge. And April was Patrick's birthday, so we had an extra special challenge. And we had a couple of them in there that were myth, legend, mythology, that gods, things like that. And ooh, Char's gonna pay for that.
Yes, she is.
That was beautiful story. Made me cry. So in May, it's Julie's birthday.
Yeah.
And it will actually be May 3rd, 2 days before her birthday. So in celebration, in honor of Julie, what's the extra special challenge for May for your birthday?
The extra special challenge, and I've been thinking about this for a minute, but the extra special challenge is something that we normally don't do until October. But it's going to start.
But it works.
Spring the words.
Spring the words. Ooh, spring the words on me, baby.
Okay. So my challenge is for spring the words is the same thing with a couple of little twists. You have to take one concept, whether we pick the concept for that role or not, you have to take the one concept and the prompt and link them into your story.
Oh, you dirty, rotten, no. You better roll some good rolls.
I know, right? Because I control the dice.
Because here's the thing. There have been several nights that I've incorporated almost all the prompts, but there's some that I can't because I just can't get it to click.
You can't get it to click. So you have to take, because we usually have 2 out of the concept and 2 out of the first line and then 2 out of use this dialogue. So you have to take one of the concepts and whatever else we pick, unless it is the concept, and then you have to pick one of the drops to go with it.
All right.
Remember, I see you in 48 days.
I know, Bubba. And guess what? I plan on going to the bar with you and having a drink, and we will hash this out there.
I want to say we do one other thing. Normally, when Julie rolls the dice, we pick that number and then we read out that number on the list, and then we read out 100 and that number on the list. I say we roll fresh for every single one. So let's say you roll a 34, okay?
Yeah.
And then we read out 34 from the first 100. Then the second time that you roll, we pick that one out of the second 100.
Okay. No, I like that.
It'll switch things up a little bit, which we kind of
It'll switch things up with a little bit, but it'll also give us a little bit more of a random.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we've been doing this for over a year. So at the beginning of the year, or right before the beginning of the year, me and Izzy, we sit down, we rehash the whole list again, revamp it up a little bit, and then that's the list for the year. And then about halfway through the year, we have to literally go through and randomize them again because we've used most of the prompts.
Yep.
So this would be a good thing. So okay.
Here we go.
Nothing.
Roll number 1.
You do realize Char's going to kill us for this, right?
It's still only 6 prompts.
It's still only 6 prompts, and it's guaranteed 6 prompts.
It's a guaranteed 6 prompts instead of maybe 5, maybe 6.
Okay. 36.
Didn't I say 33? Or did I say 36?
Actually, but
Or 34 or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Snap, crackle, pop.
I don't like that.
A character rebels against a dystopian government on Independence Day. I thought we weren't writing nonfiction around here.
Well,
Next.
next. 70. So 170.
All right. Write about a character who can see the future, but only in the form of cryptic, half-formed visions. How do they try to make sense of it?
Well, that's going to be interesting. I see I'm going back to the Gemini Project.
Ooh. All right.
See.
Next 2 roles are starting first lines.
29.
29. Starting first line. The phone call came at the worst possible time, and I wasn't ready for it.
Damn. Okay. I don't know if we've got this one.
Check.
98.
198. Nope. Roll again.
82.
Roll again.
55.
The last time I saw him, he promised to come back, but I never expected this.
Okay. $83.
All right. Use this dialogue. Oh, come on. What did you say? Sorry. I had it highlighted
80.
and then it... 83?
Yeah.
Okay. There it is. Use this dialogue. Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
All right. And the last one. 66.
All right. Oh. Use this dialogue. But this is the only thing that's made the last 3 years bearable. Submitted by Julie DeFisher.
Thank you. All right, guys. 1 through 6. Line
1
them
through
up.
6. I'm going to read them out one more time. 1. Use this concept. A character rebels against a dystopian government on Independence Day. Number 2. Use this concept.
Write about a character who can see the future, but only in the form of cryptic, half-formed visions. How do they try to make sense of it? Number 3, use this starting line. The phone call came at the worst possible time, and I wasn't ready for it. Number 4, use this starting line. The last time I saw him, he promised to come back, but I never expected this. Number 5, use this dialogue. Pull yourself together. We have work to do. Or number 6, use this dialogue. But this is the only thing that's made the last 3 years bearable. Vote for your choice in the comments. Even if you're not going to write for it, vote, vote, vote.
We got a running tie right now.
Yeah, we do. All right. Is that everybody? Julie? All right. I think that is everybody. Everybody except me, because I never do it because I don't feel it's fair, because I feel like I'm the one doing the hashtags and that might influence my decision. So, we have 1 vote for the phone call one, 1 vote for the only thing that's made the last 3 years bearable, 2 votes for the last time I saw him, he promised to come back, but I never expected this. But 3 votes for the win. Use this dialogue. Pull yourself together. We have work to do. So, there it is. That's the dialogue. And Julie's extra special birthday challenge is to also use the concept in some way. So, your choice of concept. Now, of course, don't forget to go to our Beacons link. That is beacons.ai/holdmypenpromptcast. All one word. Okay? And yes, I know Google is going to tell you that Promptcast is an incorrectly spelled word. Fuck them, we made it up.
It.
Yes.
We created it.
So, you can always sign up for the newsletter. You can find us videos on TikTok sometimes, if we remember. You've also got our YouTube channel, and come join our Discord. So, you know where to find us. It's in the links in our bios for the Hold My Pen Promptcast. And Julie and I's TikTok bios also have that. And you'll get all of the prompts, information about the special May challenge, and our update on the 1 million word challenge. What we're trying to do is all of our prompters taking all the words that have been submitted for the weekly prompts. We want us as a collective group to reach 1 million words read out loud from you on this by the anniversary show on New Year's.
Yep.
So there we go. Once again, that is use this dialogue. Pull yourself together. We have work to do. And we have kept you guys so late. But as always, you guys are troopers. You're with us for the long haul. Don't forget to check our website. Share. Here's the other thing. If you're on the newsletter and you have other friends or whatnot that you think would enjoy it, forward the newsletter to them.
Oh, yeah.
Forward it to them, right? Show them all the fun things that we're doing every single week. And we go from there.
Also, we're going to be in person. Like, as Patrick mentioned earlier, 48 days till pack in the readers.
Yep. And the 3 of us specifically, Shar unfortunately cannot make it because, Canada da. And Kesh will also be there with us, making Kesh and Patrick have their work cut out for them, trying to make me and Julie look absolutely fantabulistic. But That is what it is.
It is
Right.
what it is.
All right. Well, we thank everybody for joining us tonight. Please come back and join us again next week. Also, in the month of May, we are trying to do Friday shows, kind of catch up, this, that, and the other. We also have author interviews that we will hopefully be booking soon. So come back, join us, enjoy the fun, and let's see what we all can get done.
Don't forget to
So
follow and make sure that you got your notifications on so that you see when we go live. We do have the schedule in the actual Discord, but if Friday nights we do body doubling / chilling, hanging out, picking each other's brains, whatever. But we need those 7 days a month plus 50 followers to be able to get to affiliate status, so that Kesh can give us the freebie one. My personal freebie one is already going to Dragana in the comments, our lovely friend who stopped in and spent her evening with us. So, yeah, don't forget to hit your notifications on all the things.
yes, very much so. And I want you guys all to have a great week, a great Sunday, relax, do the thing, and we will see you again next Saturday or Friday. But if we are going to come on Friday, we will let you guys know ahead of time. But remember, be brave, be bold, but always stay humble. So we will see you all again next week.